needs to change. Joining me now is Dipayan Ghosh, a former Facebook privacy and public policy advisor, Posner Fellow at the Shorenstein Center on Media, Politics, and Public Policy at the Harvard Kennedy School. Dipayan, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you to you. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have to go anywhere Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want to go. He designed Facebook in a way that he controls a supermajority of the voting shares. So the idea that he's going to get forced out of a company he doesn't want to leave probably won't happen.
I think that's right. I think that Mark Zuckerberg has absolutely crafted this organization into one that he controls. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I think every technology CEO attempts to do the same. But I think that he's a good person, a good father, a philanthropist, good husband. He's somebody who is in a very difficult position now, who has some extraordinarily difficult questions
but he made bad choices.
He'll have to answer.
He's made bad choices. I mean, the evidence here, the New York Times story was just sort of the tip of the iceberg, that Sheryl Sandberg and Mark Zuckerberg knew what the problems could have been on Facebook and decided to choose profitability over doing the right thing.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think that is they're hamstrung by their own commercial interests, those of their investors, those of the company, those of their shareholders. And I think this is something that's consistent across this industry. It's an industry that does not operate with a sound regulatory regime that applies to it. And
Should it?
That's really what we have to change.
Should it? Because there's something beautiful about the free internet and free speech and all those places in the world where people have been able to use social media to articulate their aspirations in a way that we take for granted in America. But now we see the bad part of it. What does regulation look like in this space? What could it look like?
There is no doubt. There's no doubt that internet companies have done amazing things. They have connected lots of people. They have a lot of commerce, allowed a lot of commerce, and they are our means for communication today around the whole world. What we also can say is that these are platforms that are businesses. They're not there to just kind of sit around and allow people to communicate. They are businesses, and they've set up commercial regimes, business models that operate silently in their servers and are effectively built to promote content that's shared by anybody who's willing to pay for it, whether it's a disinformation operator, whether it's somebody trying to interfere with an election, whether it is somebody trying to promote hate speech, whether it's somebody trying to engage in privacy and security breach. These are things that we've seen across the sector, including most significantly this year at Facebook.
Is there an obvious solution to this? You know, people have thrown ideas out like paying for people's data or a tax on data. Is there some way to ensure that there's more public good out of this thing than public damage? Absolutely.
I think if we can manage to look at the business model which is premised really on creating very sticky, addictive services, collection of data on the individuals to create behavioral tracking profiles, and finally the development of opaque algorithms to target ads and curate content. If we can break that down and analyze it and start crafting policies that respond to the breaches against the public interest of that business model,
so that's
then we
interesting.
can start
Let me
to
ask you
have
that.
a way forward.
So that sounds really sensible, but isn't that like saying if I could figure out the 11 herbs and spices in KFC, or I could figure out the Coke formula, then we could figure out how best to manage that? That's the very sauce, the special sauce that Facebook absolutely doesn't want us analyzing.
You're absolutely right about that. I think that transparency, in other words, is definitely part of the policy solution going forward.
Right.
We have to start with transparency on political advertising, on the ways that these algorithms work. That's where we have to start, and I think that there are bright people designing ways to engage in transparency for this sector in ways that can still allow these companies to succeed commercially. But I think we can't just stop with transparency. We also need better privacy, better security, and greater market competition in Silicon Valley. Without without this menu of regulatory policies in the way forward, nothing is going to change.
Dipayan, this is a roadmap for a very long conversation that we could probably go on for hours on, but I appreciate at least starting with you on it. Dipayan Ghosh is a former Facebook privacy and public policy advisor. Up next, the dangerous diplomatic implications of President Trump.